Group dynamics. It's not just the leadership that matters to the individual's psychosocial and mental work environment. Cooperation and the group dynamics between individuals in a group or work unit, in the work situation, and when conflicts occur is of great significance. A group is a collection of people who experience that they have a goal in common, who are mutually dependent on each other in order to reach the goal, who mutually affect each other, who are psychologically aware of each other, who perceive themselves as a group apart from others. The group must tolerate and handle differences, as well as to perceive and utilize their differences as a resource. What constitutes a group is not simple to define. We find several different types of groups within organizations. There are formal groups that are formed in order to realize the production goals of the organization or enterprise. But we also find informal groups formed in order to cater for social relationships and contacts. There are subgroups, meaning smaller groups within a large group. Primary groups, with a limited amount of members who are in a close, personal, and stable relationship. For example, a family. Secondary groups are larger and characterized by more sporadic contact. For example, an entire workplace. Member groups are groups which one is a member of. The own work unit is by definition a member group. Reference groups is a group one compares oneself with, strive to adjust to, and be acknowledged by. What does cooperation in a group demand of the individual person? The individual should have empathic ability, want to take other people's perspectives, want to participate and contribute, have a stable identity, be able to take on a role, be able to cope with tension and conflicts, have the ability to handle conflicts in a constructive way, and be able to accommodate one's own interests and the interests that the group have in common. When people work together in a group, in a work unit, or at a workplace, the group goes through different phases of group dynamics. The different phases are the initiatory phase, which is characterized by uncertainty, unclear norms and roles. The honeymoon phase, which is characterized by a growing mutual appreciation, affinity, team spirit, and security within the group. The integration phase, which is characterized by the crystallization of roles and subgroups. Norms become clearer, the communication more coordinated, and the content more work-oriented. Conflicts. Conflicts occur in all communities and cooperations. In a group, they become clear when the individuals become visible and differences are acknowledged. If conflicts are managed, they may unite the group further. Maturing into an effective work unit. The group can manage independence as well as dependence and intimacy. This process starts over if a member exits the group, or if a new member, new task, or new technology is introduced to the group in the workplace. Some groups never experience all phases before something occurs, perhaps a reorganization, which makes the process start over with the initiatory phase. This can be experienced as frustrating. The different phases can be more or less clear, and furthermore, the duration of the different phases differ between different groups. Moreover, some groups can get stuck in one phase and find it hard to move on. Different members in a group may also experience that the group is in different phases. Between different phases, the group may find themselves on a plateau, characterized by that nothing is really happening, a pause where no one dares to take the next step forward. One can be sure that conflicts will occur within a work unit or in a workplace. Conflicts and cooperation issues will exist when people need to work together. All constructive work will sooner or later run into conflict. In groups or units that work well, where people can express themselves, different opinions are inevitable. Conflicts are neither good nor bad. Whether they turn constructive or destructive for the work unit depends on how they're managed. A conflict can be described as a collision of interests. Different kinds of conflicts are usually described. For example, conflict of power, meaning different perceptions of, for how example, a task should be executed. A role conflict, meaning who does and takes responsibility for what. A conflict of interests, meaning different interests, goals, and priorities. Value conflict, with meaning different standpoints regarding, for example, the views of human beings, moral, ethics, politics, and concept of religion. Behavioral conflicts, meaning negative attitudes, harassment, know-it-all, selfish behavior. And pseudo-conflicts, which means letting off steam and general dissatisfaction. In groups, work units, and when conflicts occur, people risk being disregarded or even discriminated against. In order to prevent this, the European Union has developed directives that aim to prevent discrimination and promote equal rights, treatment, and opportunities in matters of employment and occupation for people irrespective of their sex, ethnicity, religion or other belief, disability, sexual orientation, or age. Furthermore, the European Convention on Human Rights, Chapter 14, state the following. The enjoyment of the rights and freedoms set forth in this convention shall be secured without discrimination on any ground, such as sex, race, color, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, association with a national minority, property, birth, or other status. The grounds of discrimination are as follows. Sex, defined as men and women in the directive. Ethnicity, meaning that no one should experience discrimination based on ethnicity, the color of one's skin, national or social origin, or association to an ethnic or national minority. Religion or other belief, meaning religious views, for example, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. Or other beliefs based on or connected to religious views, for example, atheism or agnosticism. Disability, meaning a lasting physical, mental, or intellectual limit of a person's ability, which can be present since birth or caused by an accident. A disability, may be more or less apparent in different situations. Sexual orientation, meaning a person's pattern of romantic or sexual attraction to people of a certain sex or gender, for example, homosexuality, heterosexuality, and bisexuality. Age. Age is defined as the chronological length of one's life. Age is usually not talked about as much as the other grounds of discrimination. In a study we made with 11,902 respondents aged 21 to 67 years of age, it turned out that the most common experience of discrimination and disregard was on the ground of age. This may be since we're so used to stereotypes and expectations on different social ages that we don't often reflect on ageism. Younger people in the workplace may be treated as children with less knowledge and skills, while older people in the workplace may not have the same opportunities of competence development, new tasks, or participating in new projects, since they may be perceived as has-beens. Some organizations and enterprises are neophiles. In other words, they strive for renewal and youth. Therefore, aging in these organizations may be especially complicated. If the employer holds positive attitudes and values older workers' experience and knowledge, the wish to remain in the workforce increases. Furthermore, this applies to disregard on the other grounds of discrimination as well. In a study of employees aged 55 years or older, 8% of women and 3% of men stated that they had experienced ageism in their work. If, for example, an employee is an older woman of an ethnic minority, this employee may be discriminated against on several grounds. Individuals who experience discrimination run the risk of developing mental illness. There are different types of discrimination, including direct discrimination, which is that someone is disadvantaged through being treated worse than others on grounds of discrimination. Indirect discrimination, which is that someone is disadvantaged through the application of a decision, criteria, or a procedure that may disadvantage certain people in particular on the grounds of discrimination. Insufficient accessibility for people with functional diversity or disability with regard to financial and practical conditions. Harassment, a behavior that violates someone's dignity and is connected to any of the grounds of discrimination. Sexual harassment, a behavior of sexual nature that violates someone's dignity. Instructing or giving orders to someone in a position of dependence or obedience to discriminate in a manner as described above. In working life, the right of equal opportunities and equal treatment in matters of employment and occupation for people irrespective of their ethnicity, age, sexual orientation, sex, disability, religion or other belief is protected by the European Union's labour laws. The right not to be discriminated against on any grounds of discrimination mentioned previously is protected by the European Commission through Directive 2078/EC, Directive 2043/EC, and Directive 2006/54/EC. Power is important and necessary in the organization. However, power can be abused. Social psychologist Berit Aas described 5 primary master suppression techniques that her research primarily connects to gender conflicts, but that probably applies to other conflicts in the workplace as well. The 5 master suppression techniques are making invisible, ridicule, withholding information, double bind, and heaping blame or putting to shame. It's important to observe and manage conflicts in time before they grow and decrease motivation, creativity, productivity, and commitment, and contribute to dissatisfaction and ill health. The following 7 steps are beneficial in conflict management. The first step is to observe. What is the conflict really about? Let everyone involved describe the problem in their own manner. Note the difference between fact and values. The second step is to describe. Phrase the problem based on the gathered information. The next step is to analyze. Analyze what has happened, who is affected, and the motive of the conflict. The next step is to evaluate. How severe is the conflict? What alternative solutions are possible? The next step is to make decisions. Firmly establish the decision for everyone involved. Present several alternatives and describe pros and cons. The next step is to act. Turn the decision into an action plan and talk to everyone involved. The last step is to follow up and make sure that the cooperation and solution will work for everyone in the future. Please take a few moments to consider and reflect on the following questions. What are the group dynamics like in your workplace? Are there individuals in your workplace that notoriously use master suppression techniques? Are there or are there risks of disregard and discrimination based on the grounds for discrimination in your workplace? How are conflicts managed in your workplace?